What's going on, everybody? I am Gym Leader Jay, and I am excited today to be bringing you a Landorus Therian guide. This guy is an absolute menace in the meta right now and has been for a very long time. He's been popular ever since I started playing the game in Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire. So today I want to be showing you guys the kind of builds I've been using, the builds you can be using. So let's get right into it. So to start out, I want to address the normal Landorus Therian build that you can just throw out and it'll be good. It's simple to use. I want to explain this real quick. So super easy EV and IV's nature. Super easy spread. Just max your offense, max your speed, just throw extra 4 and special defense, HP, doesn't really matter. And so what you do with this set is the way you play it is you abuse the fact that you have really good speed and rock slide. This can be a very good flinch bot. Rock slide isn't an auto flinch, it's 30% chance, I believe. Yeah, 30% chance to make the opposing Pokemon flinch. And double battles, this is hopefully going to be hitting both of them as 90% accuracy, so it does miss sometimes. So it feels like for me it misses every time, but we don't need to talk about that. And then you also have U-turn here, and the reason U-turn is very solid with this speed investment is because you can pivot in and out and activate your Intimidate over and over and over again. And with Choice Scarf, you're going to be going first most of the time. And this can really add up, especially if I wouldn't recommend any more than 2 Intimidate users. But let's say you had Incineroar on your team as well, and they had Parting Shot. You can just go in between your Landorus and Incineroar. Something to note is they both have a common water weakness, so be very careful of that. But yeah, so this is the normal set that I think most people are using. Some people will go Assault Vest instead of Choice Scarf. That's something to note. For me personally, I like just having that extra reassurance of speed because you can actually speed creep some Regielekis that don't go max speed investment. I know there's been a couple out there right now. Some people are kind of trying to get those extra points into other stats, and if you're able to speed creep them, then you have Earthquake is a really hard hitter. And Superpower also, it just gives you good coverage. And if you Dynamax, Superpower can help you raise your attack. And this is just an all-around, easy to use. You can just go right into it. But today, what I want to focus in on is I have put together a Landorus build that's way more unconventional than anything else I've seen in the meta so far. And I'm a big fan of this. And I came up with this by just going through popular meta threats right now that are used in Series 9 and running calcs for them and seeing what I can handle with this Pokemon that might not otherwise be able to be handled. So first of all, we have Life Orb, which we very much do need. We need this to do that extra 1.3 damage. It's very important to be able to one-hit some things with this. And so let's get right into the calcs that I've ran. Essentially, the reason we have this attack number is plus the Life Orb is so that the Earthquake can one-shot a Dynamaxed, no defense investment, Regieleki, which is something that you will encounter. And the most it's going to hit you with, because it can't hit you with electric moves because you're immune, is Max Strike. And so you should be able to beat this thing very, very easily. And Regieleki is, I believe, the second most used Pokemon in VGC Series 9 at the moment. So having this answer to it is very, very strong. Another popular threat at the moment is Incineroar. And Incineroar is annoying, but he doesn't have too much of a kill threat right now, especially as the bulky support Incineroar, which is very common. He's kind of just spamming out his Fake Out, his Parting Shot, and even though they have attack moves and normally a little bit of attack investment, you're not super scared of that as Landorus. And against Incineroar, I actually might like this set better because you can U-turn and pivot out, which they're also going to be pivoting out, so you sort of cancel each other's Intimidates, but you will be intimidating the other Mon because it's in doubles. And so this Landorus build, you just don't have to worry about Incineroar too much. He's not going to beat you super easy, especially, you have Earthquake, you have the coverage moves. You should be okay. Something else before we get into the matchups that I want to talk about is I don't have this Thundurus built out yet. But I love pairing Prankster Thundurus, the Chef Thunderwave. I love pairing Prankster Thundurus with the Landorus. And the reason why, it's just such a good support mon. So Landorus, he struggles against Trick Room teams often. So you have the taunt built in here. You can also, you'll see later, I'll mention some specific times where this is very useful. But ever since Eerie Impulse was introduced onto Thundurus, this move absolutely guts special attackers. And that's sort of what Landorus is weak to because he already has Intimidate. So he's going to be making physical attackers neg1 for the most part unless they come in after. But with this one, again, you can pivot out and it's not a big deal. So Thundurus he covers the special attacker side where you have Intimidate to cover the physical attackers and you have Thundurus for the special attackers. And then on top of that, you have Thunderbolt, which is an electric type move. And so if I was building this out, I wouldn't go max special attack because I like this type of support Thundurus to be bulky, but I would still want it to be able to hit hard because things like Tapu Fini, which we'll cover later, are very, very scary to Thundurus or Landorus, but Thundurus can come in and really support the Landorus in that matchup. And then Thunderwave is just very good. If they Dynamax a Pokemon that's able to get hit by Thunderwave, so not a ground or electric type, then it hurts it so bad. And so this Thunderwave is just super strong. It's not 100% accuracy like it used to be, but you still got the 90% accuracy. It's very good. And keep in mind, we have the Prankster ability here. So you're going to be going first on Eerie Impulse, Taunt, and Thunderwave. So this mon is a very good supportive mon to Landorus. Also, one more final thing to note is it synergizes well with his Earthquake, so you're not going to be hitting your ally because Thundurus is in the air, and they only have a common weakness of Ice typing, which is Landorus's biggest weakness, but you just kind of have to have something else in your team deal with that, and we'll talk about that more later. So next up, we need to talk about Rillaboom. Rillaboom is not fun for Landorus, even though he doesn't have super effective moves against Landorus. He gets a priority Grassy Glide in grassy terrain, and he resists Landorus's best attacks. But our solution to this is we bring Fly. Now, Fly is normally a very bad move. It's 2 turns, and it's because of it being 2 turns in double battles, you can go up, they just double protect, they get nothing out of it. And so Fly is normally very bad, but with Dynamax being introduced, Fly turns into Max Airstream. Max Airstream is very, very strong versus Rillaboom, and it gives you a speed boost, which we don't have the best speed. We don't have 0 speed. We don't have the best speed. But if you're able to get off that Max Airstream, you're going to have much better speed, and you're going to set yourself up for a very solid sweep if you Dynamax this guy. So Rillaboom, if you're non-Dynamaxed, then it's a scary matchup for Landorus, but we bring this Fly so that we can deal with that. So into those matchups, plan on Dynamaxing your Landorus unless you have something else in your team that's going to deal with the Rillaboom. Now, we have Porygon 2. Porygon 2 is a very interesting matchup that can go very poorly if you play it poorly or if the other team plays it well. So to start off, the only way this is really a scary matchup is if they have Ice Beam, which I believe it's like 60% of Porygons are bringing Ice Beam at the moment. I might be wrong on that. It's based on memory, but I know it's a decent amount. It's above half. And if they have Ice Beam, you're not going to have a fun time. But the idea with Porygon is their goal in almost every team is either to set up Trick Room or kind of be a Trick Room counter. So in this case, if they're bringing it, it's going to be to set up Trick Room. And so what we can do to prevent this Trick Room setup is we have our Landorus with Taunt, or Thundurus with Taunt, right? And so that's why, again, I think this is a very, very good pairing. Another thing that we have with this spread to deal with Porygon 2 specifically, this is why we have our 92 special defense EV investment. Because this makes our special defense 112, where our defense is 111. So if Porygon 2 has download, he's going to get that attack boost instead of that special attack boost, which it makes him hit a lot less hard. He's not near as good. He almost becomes a complete support mon, and can't do near as much damage. So an example way of how I would deal with Porygon is I would probably Dynamax Landorus and hit it with a Max Knuckle, which keep in mind actually does less than Superpower. Um, but so you hit him with the Max Knuckle, and then your Thundurus uses Taunt. They try Trick Room, it fails. You hit him with another Max Knuckle, they're dead. That's great, okay, but people were like, no, yeah, but you just use 2 of your Dynamax turns to just deal with Porygon, which that does feel kind of bad. But you need to keep in mind, you also just got +2 attack. That's a Swords Dance. And so you were setting your Landorus up for one more really strong Dynamax turn with maybe Fly, maybe Earthquake, or maybe you're trying to stall their Dynamax turns and you need a Max Guard. But if you use Max Airstream, then you're going to need another Speed Boost too. And so you were setting yourself up to just sweep their team. And you're not locked in with a choice item. So this is a very good setup. I like this situation, and most of the time you can just run away with the game from there. Especially with a Trick Room team, you're outspeeding, you're going first. A lot of times this can go very well. Sometimes though, teams with Trick Room, they'll get crafty. They'll have something with Follow Me, so you can't land that taunt. And in cases like that, you sometimes you just have to give up the speed advantage, which is why I actually, on most of my builds, I don't like worrying about speed too much because I think it fluctuates way too much in the middle of battle these days. So I just like being able to survive things no matter what. So I like the extra bulk investment. That's a personal preference. But yeah, you can do a lot into these type of matchups, even the Trick Room ones that are hard, because you're still just a very, very hard hitter. So the next one I want to get into is Grimmsnarl. Grimmsnarl is a terrible matchup. You can't do too much before it sets up screens on you. You need an answer to this besides Landorus and besides Thundurus. Thundurus can actually taunt, which is helpful, but it's actually no, you can't taunt because you have Prankster. If you want to try Defiant, you could maybe mess around with this, but because of Prankster, you don't get the priority taunt onto the Grimmsnarl. So that's unfortunate. And it's kind of just going to set up on you and make your life miserable. So you really do need to find another answer in your team for Grimmsnarl. Tapu Fini is also a terrible matchup, but Thundurus is able to kind of help this out. If you predict the Tapu Fini using Calm Mind too, you can hit it with a taunt. You can even Thunder Wave it just to disable it. But Eerie Impulse is super strong. Just shuts it down very well. And they're probably going to have to switch out, which gives you time to set up whatever you need. Now we also need to look at Urshifu. Urshifu is very prominent in the meta right now. Single strike Urshifu, he isn't scary because you can either max Airstream or you have superpower. So you should be fine against max, or not max, you should be fine against single strike Urshifu. Keep in mind, most of them have, like 90% of them have Focus Sash, so you're not going to 2-hit KO. Or you will 2-hit KO. You're not going to 1-hit KO. This is what makes multi-strike very, very scary for Landorus. Because he has Max Strike into Priority Aqua Jet that you can't outspeed. That will kill you every time. And you can't one-shot him because of his sash. But we were able, with this set, with the 132 HP investment, plus your defense investment, you won't die to a Jolly max attack Surging Strikes into Aqua Jet. That won't kill you. Keep in mind, this is also without Intimidate. So if they switch in and you don't get the Intimidate off, you're still going to survive 2 hits from it as long as it's not Adamant. And most of them aren't Adamant these days because they really are trying to go first because they're scared of their sash getting broken and them not getting a turn. This is really where the bulk pays off. It covers a losing matchup and turns it into a form of winning matchup. And so it's very big for Landorus. Now, something to keep in mind is if you hit with the Life Orb, you might die, you might survive. It's not guaranteed because there is the, on the calculations, if you do like closer to the minimum damage, you'll live. If it's closer to their maximum damage, you're going to die with Life Orb, but Intimidate can hold that back. So you're able to use some Protect, even though you can't protect against the Surging Strikes, you can protect against the Aqua Jet, and you can have Thundurus clean it up because he's got those super effective moves. You do too, actually, with the Max Fly. Keep in mind, when I ran this calc, in order to not die, you need to Dynamax. You do need a Dynamax in order to survive. All right, so with that, we'll move on to Glastrier. I think I'm pronouncing that right. I've heard so many different ways to pronounce that it's terrible. Either way, he destroys Lando. One Icicle Crash and it's over. And you can't really one-shot him because he's bulky. And if you were facing him in Trick Room, he's going to go before you. It's just a mess. You need something to deal with this. That's not Landorus. That's not Thundurus. Moving on. Celesteela. Also, terrible matchup. You get hard-walled. You don't have a good way to hit this. Especially with this set, you have Superpower. It's got so much more, though. If that's all you're hitting it with, your attack's going to go down, and your defense is going to go down, which defense doesn't matter into that exact matchup, but it might matter if they are supported by an Incineroar or something along those lines. So yeah, Celesteela, bad matchup. You need something to deal with that in your team. So those are the big matchups that I wanted to talk about for Landorus. There's one more group that I want to talk about that counters Lando, and that you have to be very careful when you're bringing him into these matchups. And these include the Pokemon that use Competitive and Defiant for their abilities, because this counters Intimidate. So it's not just Landorus, and counters all Intimidate users, because they're going to get a stat boost instead of losing that attack, and they're just going to get set up to sweep, and that's very scary. This is actually why Defiant Thundurus rose, is because a very popular rise in Intimidate users. Some of these notable ones that I want to point out are Galarian Zapdos, Braviary, Tornadus, Thundurus, Galarian Articuno, and Milotic. These guys have Competitive and Defiant. Not both, but they have one of those. And so these are very scary. You need something to deal with these mons besides Landorus. And if you see those on the other team, I'd be very careful with opening with Landorus, just because you don't want to enable them to absolutely sweep your team. Especially Milotic. He would destroy Landorus. He's also normally bulky, and Thundurus would have a hard time dealing with him. So, we also, at the end, we just we told you where the attack comes from, where the HP comes from, where the SPDF comes from, where the defense comes from. We just threw the leftover points in speed, I'll be honest. We feel like there's enough bulk in this set, and this isn't really a Pokemon you want to be going 0 speed investment in, even though he has very solid defensive stats and a decent defensive typing. We still want that speed. If you have a Tailwind user in your team, you can enable this. Again, we have the Max Airstream, so I'm not super worried about having a lower than average speed on this Mon. I think the bulk is more important. And so what has made Landorus good in not just Series 9, but anytime he is usable, he is used, and he is popular. And right now, he counters some of the big, powerful meta picks, as we talked about, and his presence has led to Pokemon such as Tapu Fini finding a place in the meta. Because Tapu Fini before, she's a solid Mon, it's a good attacker, but she has such a nice niche of countering Landorus. And Ice-type moves have become so strong because of Landorus. I remember when he first came out, Mamoswine used to be a terrible Mon. And it got a niche being able to use a priority Ice-type move against Landorus. And it was able to one-shot it with a Choice Band build. And nobody would expect Mamoswine to be on a team. It's Ice is such a bad defensive typing. It just wasn't a great Mon, but it found its way into many teams just because like 80% of teams had Landorus. It was insane. And so Ice type moves have become a staple in almost every team due to Landorus's presence. And what makes him so powerful is while he is very weak to ice, his only other weakness is water. He's only got two. And so if you have an answer to these ice types, you're going to be okay. And if you're able to play around and avoid these ice type attacks, you can do so much work with this Mon. And additionally, on top of only having two weakness, he has immunity. Yes, immunity to ground and electric moves. He's got double immunity. And to back his solid defensive typing, he has decent defensive stats. And he still has good offensive options. That's 145 base attack, guys. 145 base attack, 91 speed. Like, this is insane. And I mean, he doesn't use a special attack, but 105 special attack is something to sneeze at. If you wanted to build this thing as a special attacker, you could. It's just, he's insane. And it doesn't stop there. He's got Intimidate too. That adds to his bulk. He's got everything. He just has one of the best kits, if not the best kits in the game. And so because of this, he's become a staple on so many teams. And this set that I've shown you today it's more based on him being an all-around solid Pokemon. It's not about him being a true sweeper. This build has a really flexible playstyle that you can Dynamax, or you can just be a solid Intimidate user. There's no right way to build this Mon. You can build a team around him, you can use him to round off a team, or you can just use him as an Intimidate pivot. Like, this is almost a support build. He's trying to go for flinches and just lower attack. He's not trying to carry your team. He's almost more of a support Mon. And so there's just so many different things you can do with this guy. And there's a lot to talk about when it comes to Lando. Like, this isn't it. This isn't all the builds. This is an example EV spread that I've had success with. And this is a typical EV spread. But you can move things around. Like, if you want a higher speed tier and you don't care about surviving Urshifu, but maybe you care about surviving something else, you can move this around. You can switch out Life Orb. You can take a Choice Band for more damage. There's so many things you can do. Assault Vest. And so I hope I've covered some basic things in this video, but there are tons of niche specific questions and playstyles that I can't just cover in one video. And so I want this video to be more than just a video, but as a spot of discussion. So please, if you have any questions, leave a comment and I will do my best to answer it. Also, others in the community can give their input as well. I hope we can get great discussion going in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, make sure to subscribe for more guides like this. I also do Pokemon card openings and any Pokemon card content I can find. When Pokemon Unite comes out, I'll be doing tons of content on that. So if you want to see that, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, leave a comment, get a discussion going, and I will see you guys in the next one.